Thank you very much to all our speakers. I thought we might just spend 10-15 minutes now just reflecting on the presentations we've heard so far, and particularly the theme of this first stage was the challenges and solutions that we have come up with in bringing together policy and science for developing networks. Naturally, many of the presentations have actually covered also the other elements, dimensions of the process, which are to do with stakeholder participation and communication. And in fact, in many instances, we've seen that participation is brought in from the very beginning to provide the science and actually support the increasing the knowledge base that can then assist us in developing, in establishing the marine protected areas. Just very briefly, I just wanted to give you my sense of what some of the key points coming out of these presentations were, and then open up to discussion, but also to comments if you actually have experienced, have other experiences or interesting things that you want to share with us. First of all, I'd like to go back to Fairul's point that in terms of science, how much science is enough? Clearly, Malaysia, they have come to the conclusion that the focus on some essential information is actually a good way for them get moving and ensure that the lack of science is not a barrier for us to act, particularly in the marine environment. That's fundamental. I found it very interesting, in fact I'm fascinating and really interested by the diversity of approaches that different nations have taken. So Malaysia, for example, has focused on a particular species problem, the dugong, and have really focused the process of looking at developing network of marine protected areas and marine protected areas on that issue, while other countries, for example Taiwan, and I can say Australia, we've had a deliberate phase of considering the broader biophysical patterns and therefore designing a framework that then could take us to a comprehensive and representative system. I think was really interesting to hear both from India and from Mexico that focus on deeper water or extraterritorial waters in terms of focusing efforts for developing marine protected areas. It's very real that the issues, and I think that's common across the board, that the issues are, the conflicts are lower the further you move from the coast. And that might actually provide a very good opportunity to commence the process of establishing marine protected areas and mainstreaming the concept of marine conservation in a context where the conflicts might actually make it difficult if you focus closer to the coast. Very quickly, other things that I think were of note were those examples where countries are actually joining up and joining the efforts for at the regional scale, like the Mediterranean is a very good example, and it's very effective. I think in the context of the science and policy theme, I found very interesting the concept of building the local capacity from the perspective of contributing to the knowledge base as well, so with the training local scientists and local institutions to enhance the capability of not only assessing but in the longer term monitoring what the conservation values, the marine conservation values are. Final point, which I must say I can't remember where it came from, which presentation was, but was quite important, is the focus on socioeconomic aspects. So it's not just an assessment, I think it was Daniel as well, it's not just an assessment of the conservation values, the natural values, but the social and economic values that exist. I think that's fundamental to be able to design and then manage marine protected areas in a way that integrates the different interests. And that actually we'll go into that in more detail in the second, under the second theme. Now, I'll shut up and ask you if you have any questions or comments arising from what we have heard so far. You want to go? Thanks.
Thank you. My name is Andrea. I'm from Argentina, and I was interested in the last presentation from the presenter of India. We have a similar situation in Argentina because we are also a federal country, and the waters from the coast to the third mile are from the province, but different to your situation. From the 3rd to the 12th mile, they are from the national government. Although provinces can fish and fish, the water column, yes, it is from the provinces. We didn't have legislation regarding creation of marine protected areas from the 12th mile till the 200 mile. So this year or last year, one senator introduced a bill to create a marine protected areas framework system framework in order to establish the institutionality to create marine protected areas. So this year, hopefully the law is going to be approved at the end of the year in November, we think, and that will allow to create marine protected areas beyond territorial sea. So that is what I wanted to share with you. I think that a legal framework could easily be introduced by any citizen and try to or NGO or academy try to do that with a senator, with a deputy, ally with them, and try to push with the public opinion for that framework to be approved.
Great, thanks very much.
I think I'm glad to hear that we have a similar situation in a totally different country, quite far away from our coast. And I think it is very unfortunate that we are concentrating on the first 12 nautical miles and ignoring the 188 miles which are remaining there. So many large countries which have got very long coastlines have this problem, and this can be addressed. But it's not about legislation alone. It needs finances. And where will the finance come? Whether the national government can fund it entirely, and where will the technology come from? So it's experience sharing and a global fund for that. That was also one of the things which I highlighted. So thank you very much for sharing your experience.
Any more questions? Okay. First, second, third, fourth.
I got the mic first.
Who is first?
I have the mic.
Yeah, okay, great.
Sorry, it just follows on well with the other question about the federal state. I'm from Canada. Our federal government has no interest in new MPAs. Our provincial government has a lot of interest and has a very unique provincial First Nations Indigenous process going on for a vast area. And I was just wondering if anyone from a federal country, including Australia, could talk about going ahead at the provincial or state level, especially with the law, when the federal government isn't too interested.
Well, I think we have the same, a similar experience in Malaysia, where the state government has more interest in setting up MPAs than the federal government. And especially on the East Malaysia, in the Borneo Island, the state of Sabah and Sarawak has been more active in setting up MPAs. And I think the enabling legislation when they first joined the federation was that all marine resources fall under state's jurisdiction, and that allows state to move ahead with their own bylaws to set up MPAs. And basically federal can't really say much. So if state wants to do it, the federal kind of have to support them, as long as state manage that MPAs by themselves.
Is it following up on this question?
No.
Okay, then just a second, because I'll give you, it seems like I'm gloating, but I believe that the key to success for Australia, which now has, despite the fact that we have an independent review, there is a strong commitment to see the new network of marine reserves fully effective in the very near future. The key has been that we have had bipartisan support over the last 15 years. So I suppose for me that means that really try to build that support is actually quite critical, particularly in federal situations.
Yes, no, the gentleman there, and then you.
I just want to jump in ahead of the lady who was waiting. She's been waiting a while, hasn't she?
Okay, just you go and then the gentleman.
Just because my contribution comes in the line of what has been said before. My name is Marta. I came from Portugal, and I have a lot of the sea background. And I can share with you that Portugal is already protecting deep sea ecosystems and also ecosystems in the water column, so open sea ecosystems, in the EEZ, and also in locations in the outer continental shelf, I mean in the seabed and subsoil beyond 200 nautical miles. So definitely for us the scientific challenge was the first challenge, but now we are facing a second one. It is a legal challenge related with management and enforcement. And at a management level, what I can share with you is that in the coastal areas, definitely you have several stakeholders, but normally they have the nationality of the country that does the protection. It's not the case in the EEZ, in the outer continental shelf. The complexity is different because in the EEZ, in the outer continental shelf, you need to deal with navigation or shipping by third countries, or shipping in the case of, and fishing in the case of the outer continental shelf, which requires an institutional framework that is a little bit different from the national. In the case of Portugal, we benefit from the partnership of the European Union, also of the OSPAR Convention, and also of Regional Fisheries Management Organization, that is the Northeast Atlantic Fisheries Commission. With this institutional framework, so far we ban bottom trawling fishing in a large area of our EEZ and also in small areas of the outer continental shelf. So my question might be, in your regions, do you count, as I count, with institutional or with international institutional frameworks that might help the effort of the country in the approval of measures that really guarantees or ensures the protection of ecosystems like we have in Europe? Thank you.
Okay, we move to the next. Sorry, the gentleman down there who has been very patient. And then, can I just ask for your patience, and when I move to the next, we only have 4 more presentations, and then we can just have all the questions at the end. We still have about 3/4 of an hour, so we'll have plenty of time. Yes, please.
How are you going? Darren Cameron, I'm with the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority. Just a bit of clarification, and I came in later, I apologise, regarding species management in terms of that being a driver for marine protected areas. I just wanted to clarify that back in 1997, with dugong, there was an issue in the marine park with incidental catch in commercial gill nets, and at that time a network of dugong protection areas was set up under state fisheries legislation right throughout the Queensland coast. And following on from that, everyone's aware, in 2004 the network of no-take areas in the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park were expanded under the CAR principles. And I just wanted to say, well, in that process then, the dugong protected areas were then mirrored in special management areas within that whole marine protected area network. So despite, in Australia we do things on the CAR principles as best as we can, there is compatibility and importance for species-based conservation within that MPA network design as well.
Thanks, Cameron. That's very useful.